What's going on, guys? Alpha the Wizard back at it with another video. Today I'm bringing to you a video of how we can out the Kashtira deck. So as a lot of you may know, Photon Hypernova is right around the corner, and Kashtira, pure Kashtira, is posing to be a real threat to the metagame. And me personally, I generally play Tearlaments myself. However, a lot of these outs that I'm going to show you for Kashtira can be applied among various different strategies. So without further ado, I'm going to just show you 3 replays covering how you can out the Kashtira inboard given the circumstances. And yeah, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop in. So we lost the dice roll, hypothetically speaking. And this is just going to be something that is very uncommon for you to see from Kashtira players. Generally, Unicorn is the best starter. However, sometimes Fenrir can get you there too, or if they hard open Papyrus, then Unicorn's going to go ahead and add a spell, which is the Birth, since they already used Papyrus. Then they make the Shangri-La, they use Rise Heart, banish the trap, we banish the top 3 from our deck, and then they get to lock a zone, and then they get to summon out a material because of the trap, and then that gets them into Mind Hacker, which is essentially going to banish an extra deck card. In this case, or most cases, they're probably going to target your Zeus, because that's probably going to be one of your only ways out of this. And then Mind Hacker banishes again, they lock more zones. So yeah, generally speaking, when we start our turn, and they're also making a Rise Heart, which is like a walking macro Cosmo. And yeah, theoretically, I kind of messed up a little bit in this. They could have just made a Rise Heart first. That way they can get more materials on the Rise Heart. So technically this should have 3 materials, because there's going to be a series of chain links. I kind of scuffed it, but all that matters is this is going to be their inboard. So they end on this, and then in the standby phase, Shangri-La usually is going to activate to summon a Fenrir, generally speaking. And then main one. So this is where things get interesting. Tasking is one of the ways around this. So we're going to go tasking for talents. However, I will say there are some flaws in tasking, utilizing this to out their board. So there's a couple cool interactions. So tasking, since they use Shangri-La in the standby phase, we can use this. However, then it gets banished, and then a Rise Heart mandatory effect is going to trigger to take the tasking. This is the problem that we run into. So they could just simply use a Rise Heart preemptively to banish anything on their field. They could banish their Birth, they could banish their Fenrir face down. Yeah, and then, or I mean, they probably wouldn't do it preemptively. They would probably wait till you commit something, and then they're going to Rise Heart. That way they can just lock the rest of your zones. But nonetheless, we're just going to use this strategy in the meantime. So we're going to go ahead and use talents to take. They're going to trigger a Rise Heart. Let's just say banish talents face down. And then we take their Rise Heart. They're going to lock the last zone. And then we banish a lot for Mind Hacker. Now we have a few options. We could play Zeus and a Rise Heart. Okay, the reason why we might want to play a Rise Heart in Tearlaments is because half the time they will Shangri-La in standby phase. The only time this doesn't work is if they're afraid of this happening. But most cases they probably will, unless their inboard is good enough already. So we simply can make our own Rise Heart, and then we can attack into the Mind Hacker to eliminate that from the field. And then a Rise Heart's mandatory effect is going to trigger to attach to Diablos. And then we can just use a Rise Heart to get rid of the Shangri-La. However, after we attach, Fenrir will trigger to be able to banish the Arise Heart, but that's okay because then we just Arise Heart to out the Shangri-La. Sorry if this was a little scuffed, but it's all the same. So yeah, so then they end on a Fenrir. And then now main phase 2, we are free to play. So tasking and talents is one way to out the Arise Heart and their board. However, it does require you to be able to fit the Arise Heart in your extra deck, and if they see that you play this, they're probably going to banish it off Mind Hacker, making it a little bit harder to out the board. So I would definitely side maybe a second Zeus. But nonetheless, moving on. This next one, we're going to be presented with a very similar end board. However, we're going to be simply using Change of Heart to out the Arise Heart. Now, the reason why this one isn't always the greatest option, but it's better than other options that may be presented to you, is because Change of Heart targets as opposed to talents does not. So if their Arise Heart, if they have a lot of extension and they're able to get multiple materials on the Arise Heart, this isn't going to work because you go Change of Heart, target the Arise Heart, and then that's just simply, they can just chain Arise Heart to banish itself, and then they lock more of your zones. So, but in this case, we're just going to say that they only have one material. And then given, we draw for turn. However, I'm just using one card to show you how to out this. Standby phase, they probably would have Shangri-La'd as well, but it's not going to matter here. So we're just going to go Change a Heart to take Arise Heart. Mandatory effect, it's going to trigger to attach the Change a Heart. We're just going to beat over Mind Hacker, and then that's going to attach. And then we can just simply make Zeus. Probably in attack mode, because you don't want them to be able to get to their own Zeus. So in this matchup, making Zeus in attack mode is probably essential. But yeah, so then we're just going to Zeus, and that's just going to out the board. And then we're probably going to have a lot more cards in hand to play with. So moving on to the last one. So in this strategy, we're going to watch them. This is a post-sighting one. And we're just adding, just for combo purposes. Okay, so they're going to start off with the normal combo, start with Unicorn. This is generally what they want to start with. So if you have an Imperm, it's not always bad to hit the Unicorn because that puts them on having the Papyrus already. But if they do, then you just get punished and it's a -1. But here, this is not uncommon. Some people probably will be doing this, okay? And I just wanted to give you an idea of how it works before I really touch into how to out it. So, see, he special summoned Unicorn, and then he normal summoned Ibli, and then he's just going to link into Almirage, and that's going to give us Ibli. So now we can't even Nibiru them. Evenly Match is turned off as well. So is Lightning Storm. So it's like Ibli, them possibly doing this post-sighting is very dangerous. So then he added the wrong card. He's going to get Kashtira Birth. Probably already has, yep, there's Papyrus. And that's going to summon Fenrir. Fenrir effects, just add a random one because he already has Rise Heart. Then he makes Shangri-La. Summon Rise Heart effects. Banish that to summon, lock a zone. And then we're supposed to banish 3 from the top. But just for combo purposes, I'm just going to show you quickly how to out it. Then he's going to Mind Hacker, lock 2 more zones. And he's going to just go ahead and put the Ibli here. Just because since Almirage is right here, he's going to block these 3 zones first. Because if we are playing a link-based strategy, all of our link zones are blocked. Because this is the only extra monster zone available. So that's some insight of why they lock these zones first. Okay, and then he's going to go Birth, and this is just full combo for him, right? Then he makes a Rise Heart because Shangri-La is activated. Draw for turn. So this is very important. Book of Eclipse is a decent out to the end board. However, if they have an Ash Blossom and they Ash the Book of Eclipse, we simply just have another one. I'm just kidding. But yes, Ash Blossom literally stops Book of Eclipse, which is such a power move because Book of Eclipse just outs their whole board. And you'll see why. So we're going to go Book of Eclipse in the draw phase because we don't want them to get another monster out. We don't want Shangri-La to activate. Yeah, so you always want to do this in draw phase if you have a book card. Okay, so everything gets booked. All of our zones free up too. So we forgot to take the tokens off. But then we just go ahead and normal summon Rhino Heart, activate effect, dump the tier cache. The reason why I would do this here is just because I would want to get at least some recursion going. Just so I can get at least one tier card in the graveyard. Thin the deck a little bit. And then we're going to link those off in the dark. And sorry, there, as you see, our link zones are freed up because Shangri-La did get Book of Moons. And then we can, from here, we're just simply free to play. We can do everything that we really need to do. We probably just want to Zeus them, but in this case, you know, we have Kelbeck, so now we can just freely mill 5 and just start all of our Tearlaments plays. Alright, so those are the couple scenarios that I just wanted to give you guys. Now, moving on, I did kind of craft a sheet of all the probabilities. Sorry for the toolbar. Yeah, I wanted to craft a sheet for all the probabilities of cards that might help. Okay, so to start things off, we have Lava Golem. All the really decent to good cards are up top. All the mid subpar cards are down here. And then these are just potential side deck options. So Lava Golem is probably one of the better cards against Kashtira. However, you do have to sacrifice your normal summon. But, you know, if you're playing Tearlaments, you know, it's not exactly a bad option because we do have Sheeran, we have the tier cash card. You know, Lava Golem might see a rise in popularity. And then we have Chaos Hunter. Chaos Hunter is actually a really, really good card against Kashtira. Basically, when your opponent special summons a monster, you can discard a card, special summon this card from your hand, and your opponent cannot banish cards. So what this means is if they start with special summon Unicorn, you can discard, let's just say for example, a Kelbeck to special summon this card. You can trigger Kelbeck, and they cannot trigger Unicorn because they cannot banish cards. And they also are not going to be able to use Rise Heart either because Rise Heart to level 4, that's going to banish for cost a card from their deck, a Kashtira card. So Chaos Hunter, if you can drop this before they even get Rise Heart out, that's just most likely game. And also being able to trigger a Kelbeck or a Guido with Chaos Hunter is kind of broken if you ask me. Lancia. Lancia is decent against Kashtira. I definitely think Lava Golem and Chaos Hunter are probably the better two options. Just because Lancia is restrictive to only on your opponent's turn. So if they have any little bit of extension to get to like an Arise Heart, like the XYZ, Lancia doesn't really do anything to out that. So that's why Lancia is not always the greatest. Because, yeah, all they have to do is just get 3 level 7s on the field. And it's just pretty much wraps. It might be a little challenging for them to do that if they can't banish cards. But, I mean, it's not possible. They could simply just go special summon Unicorn. You could chain Lancia. And then they could use Papyrus to get like Fenrir. They could Fenrir to get any Kashtira, and if they have like Birth in hand, then they could just normal summon one, and then they could just hard make a Rise Heart. And then if that's the case, Lancia doesn't do much, but this is like a decent option against them. Now tasking is a really also decent at best option, because tasking, no matter what, they're probably going to Shangri-La in standby phase. So that's going to turn on tasking like 99.9% of the time against this deck. And then if they have a Rise Heart on the field, mandatory effect's going to activate once this gets banished, and they're going to attach your tasking or whatever the case may be, and then that's going to turn on your talents. But the only problem with this is if they have any way to lock more of your zones, then you can't even activate talents. I'm sorry, I keep doing that, guys. But yeah, they can't even you can't even activate your talents because all your zones are blocked. And equally, that's why I feel the same way about Change of Heart and Mind Control. While these cards are really good into the Kashtira board as well as talents, you know, these two specifically target. So if their Rise Heart already has 3 materials and you try to take it with Change of Heart, they could just banish itself and then just, you know, keep trying to lock more of your zones. It's rather scary, to be honest. But then we do have Book of Eclipse. Book of Eclipse is probably one of the better cards into the Kashtira board. However, all it takes is one Ash Blossom to out this, and also some Kashtira players are going to be citing in Solemn Judgment for going first. So Book of Eclipse is very mid to decent, and that's kind of the same for Book of Lunar Eclipse. Like, the book cards are probably going to be the way moving forward into Kashtira. However, this one's a little bit worse than Book of Eclipse because you have to discard a card. However, this card does not flip them back up like Book of Eclipse does. And, yeah, so this card is a permanent. Like, it books them face down, doesn't flip them face up. But they also cannot Ash Blossom this. And then we have Evenly Match. Now, I would say Evenly Match is broken against Kashtira. However, as you previously saw in one of the replays, going first, they can side in an Ibly, and that's going to turn off your Evenly Match. This actually happened to me in a testing session. Shout out to Jib. Basically, he did exactly what I did in that replay. He gave me Ibly, and I'm just over here looking at it evenly matched in my hand thinking, dang, this is actually crazy. I can't even use this. So yeah, so these are all like probably the little bit higher than average cards that you could probably play against Kashtira. Super Poly's also one that I left off the list. Like, it's decent, but it requires a lot of commitment because you almost have to play like 2 Mud Dragon because of Mind Hacker. But then, in addition, these are like the mediocre cards against Kashtira. You can play Sphere Mode. However, they don't always have to play into this card. You know, sometimes they don't. Even if they draw like mediocre, but can still get to a Rise Heart. You know, Sphere Mode can just be turned off. And, you know, this doesn't always hurt all the matchups that might be in the format. So Sphere Mode is definitely a decent option. And then we have Droll and Lockbird. The only reason why I put Droll down here and not up here with the rest of these cards is because it is a shifter deck. Now, if they shifter, like in the main phase or standby, whatever the case may be on their turn, then Droll is just automatically turned off and you just have a dead card in your hand. So that's why I think Droll is mediocre. However, if they go Unicorn, or if they start with Field Spell, it's even better for you because they're going to search a Kashtira monster, you're going to Droll them, and then it stops all their plays. So yeah, Droll can be really good, but I think it's also mid just because it's shifter. Now, another good option that are pretty decent, Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. This one's pretty decent because if they start with Unicorn and you Mourner it, then they literally don't get to their Papyrus unless they hard draw it. And, I mean, it's basically the same as Imperm or Veiler. All these cards fit a very similar purpose. However, Veiler's probably the worst one because these other two just cover more matchups. Veiler's only on your opponent's main phase, and it has to go to the graveyard. So Veiler's probably the worst one out of all 3 of the negate ones. However, Mourner and Imperm might start seeing play. A lot of people already play Imperm, and if you do decide to play Imperm against Kashtira, always just probably Imperm their Unicorn. Because if you Imperm their Unicorn and they don't have Papyrus, they're not going to have any real ways of extending without going neg. And then we have Dark Hole and Regeki. These are both cards you can get off of tasking. However, the only issues that I see with these cards is Shangri-La, it protects itself. So if it would be destroyed by a card effect, like they can simply just detach a card to protect it. However, you are going to out the rest of their field, their monsters, but you know, they might have a way of locking more zones. Like on, you know, when you go Regeki, they could just like chain like a Rise Heart to like banish something, and then they could lock another one of your zones, leaving you with not much space to play. So yeah, I don't think these cards are exactly the best options, but they do kind of like clear up the field a little bit. But then some good side deck options for you. Some people do side the Lingeribo just because of the Ibly shenanigans, but the only reason why I think this is not the greatest is because you don't even know if the Kashtira matchup you're playing against is going to Ibly you. Like, we don't know. And that's why this is such a scary matchup. We don't know if they're going to Ibly us. So we don't know if we need to have these outs. Like, it's just scary. Like, it's almost worth not playing it and just playing other generic outs, like maybe Chaos Hunter, Lava Golem, main decks Imperms, stuff like that. But I don't think the Lingeribos are necessary. But then also, because of Mind Hacker, if you do decide to go the Change of Heart, Mind Control, Tasking, Talents route, you have a few different options. You could play one Arise Heart in your extra deck and side into a second Zeus, or you could play one Zeus and side into another Arise Heart, and then just, you know, play one Arise Heart in your main extra deck. So these are definitely cards that you might need two of. Now, Pac, when he won that online tournament, it had like 70 participants, he sided into a second Zeus. The reason why we do this is because of Mind Hacker. If they go first, they're most certainly going to banish your Zeus because that is one of your outs to their board. Now, Arise Heart is another good option. Zeus is just so much better though. But yeah, so I wanted to give you guys like a little bit of insight on how to beat Kashtira. The deck is looking really, really scary. Me as a Tearlaments player, I've been contemplating how to beat the matchup, because if you just simply open with like a Havness, that is not going to be enough. But yeah, so that's the end of the video. Let me know what you thought down below in the comments. You know, if there was anything that I missed or didn't touch on, just let me know. There will be more videos like this coming soon, especially as the format progresses. But yeah, so with all that being said, I will see you in the next one.